Happy Friday and welcome to the program. Today we're covering stories near and far shaping the United States and the world. We'll get you caught up on all of it, but first, a look at the headlines. Poland summons Hungary's ambassador and recalls its envoy as diplomatic ties between the two NATO allies crumble. This after Hungary granted political asylum to a Polish minister who's facing 11 corruption charges for stealing more than $40 million. Washington sends a high-level diplomatic delegation to meet the Syrian rebels in Damascus. Still, the Pentagon confirmed there are now nearly 2,000 American troops stationed in Syria, contrary to the previously stated number of 900. A Republican spending bill backed by Donald Trump and Elon Musk fails to pass in the House of Representatives. Republicans now have no clear plan to avert a fast approaching government shutdown that could disrupt holiday season travel. Thousands of Amazon workers go on strike at 7 facilities at the height of the holiday shopping season. The workers' union has called it the largest strike against Amazon in the history of the United States. And families and relatives of prisoners clash with riot police and storm into a prison to free inmates in southern Mexico. Prison officials say at least 2 people were killed in the clashes. We begin in the United States. Media lawyers are preparing for an onslaught of lawsuits from Donald Trump in the wake of his re-election. Earlier this week, the president-elect sued the Des Moines Register and its former top pollster, Selzer. Now, notably, Selzer conducted a poll which ran in the paper just 3 days before the presidential election, suggesting Vice President Kamala Harris would win Iowa. However, the survey was proven wrong as the state voted for Donald Trump in large numbers.
And then she brought it down very smartly to 4 a couple of weeks before. And everyone said, wow, that's amazing. He's only up by 4 points. Then she brought it down to where it was down by 3 or 4, whatever number she used. And that was the Des Moines Register. And it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud and it was election interference.
Now, the legal action represents Donald Trump's pledge to pursue litigation against media more aggressively. He filed the latest lawsuit just days after ABC News agreed to settle a defamation case by donating $15 million to his future presidential library. ABC News also publicly apologized for remarks by its anchor George Stephanopoulos, who falsely said that Donald Trump had been found liable for rape. The president-elect also sued CBS in late October over the network's 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. The lawsuit argued that the vice president's interview was deceptively edited and sought $10 billion in damages.
We're filing one on 60 Minutes, you know about that, where they took Kamala's answer, which was a crazy answer, a horrible answer, and they took the whole answer out and they replaced it with something else she said later on in the interview, which wasn't a great answer, but it wasn't like the first one. The first was grossly incompetent. It was weird. And that was fraud and election interference by their news magazine, a big part of CBS News.
Trump's list of lawsuits against media persons and organizations doesn't end there. In fact, last year, Donald Trump sued journalist Bob Woodward and book publisher Simon & Schuster for releasing his audio tapes without consent.
We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward, where he didn't quote me properly from the tapes. And then on top of everything else, he sold the tapes, which he wasn't allowed to do. He could only use them for reporting purposes, not for sale purposes. And he admits that.
And in 2022, Donald Trump brought another lawsuit against the board of journalism's most prestigious award, the Pulitzer Prize. The case revolved around the board giving the New York Times and the Washington Post an award in 2018 for reporting on Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Now, railing against the press is a familiar tactic for Donald Trump, who simply doesn't trust the mainstream media and wants to suppress the so-called left-leaning outlets. During his first term, his administration went over 300 days without any official media briefing at the White House. And even if his next administration holds daily press conferences, Donald Trump might simply get rid of journalists who do not align with his values. And a new report from the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, shows that the Biden administration has deported over 270,000 migrants in the fiscal year of 2024. Now, this marks the highest annual figure since President Joe Biden took office back in 2021 and is even higher than any year of Donald Trump's first term in office. The ICE report also cites that around 32% of those deported by the Biden administration had criminal histories, while millions are being documented for expulsion. Critics argue that the outgoing president's policies mirror those of former President Barack Obama, who also oversaw millions of deportations during his tenure as well. Here's a deeper dive inside the numbers.
The Biden administration deported 271,484 immigrants in fiscal year 2024, the highest number in a decade. This staggering figure eclipses the deportations under President-elect Donald Trump's first term and marks a dramatic shift in enforcement under President Biden, who once promised compassion in immigration policies.
If you take a look at the number of people who are coming, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people coming to the border and crossing are being sent back, Thousands, tens of thousands of people who are over 18 years of age and single people, one at a time coming, have been sent back, sent home. We're sending back the vast majority of the families that are coming. We're trying to work out now with Mexico their willingness to take more of those families back. But that's what's happening. They're not getting across the border. And those who are coming across the border who are unaccompanied children, we're moving rapidly to try to put in place what was dismantled, as I said.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, has put out a latest report that exposes a sharp rise in expulsions. In 2019, there were 267,000 deportations. Then during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, there were 185,000 deportations in fiscal year 2021. When Biden took office, ICE deportations plunged to just 59,000. However, in 2022, the deportations rose to 72,000, and from there the numbers kept increasing to topping 142,000 in 2023 and over 270,000 in 2024. The latest ICE report also cites that nearly a third of deported individuals had criminal records and most were recent border crossers. Biden's policies over the years have faced immense strain amid record-breaking border encounters. Critics say that the administration's migrant crackdown is a desperate attempt to project control amid chaos.
Throughout the year, the agency was called on to do more without commensurate funding, working within the confines of strained resources and competing priorities while steadfastly supporting the Department of Homeland Security and its component agencies in their efforts to secure the border.
Democrats, who have been often vocal in opposing Trump's immigration agenda, now face a glaring contradiction. Because back in 2009 to 2016, former President Barack Obama deported over 5.2 million immigrants over his 2 terms, which was far more than Trump's 1.7 million in his first term between 2017 and 2021. While during Joe Biden's 4 years in office, the total deportations have been just over 500,000. Despite criticizing Donald Trump for his tough stance on migrants, Obama earned the nickname Deporter-in-Chief, as his administration carried out the highest number of expulsions.
In the middle class. The immigration system we have in the United States right now doesn't reflect our values. It separates families when we should be reuniting them. We're going to have to work with the Mexican government to make sure that we've got a well-regulated border. But I also want to work with the Mexican government because I believe that the long-term solution to the challenge of illegal immigration.
Meanwhile, as Trump's incoming administration is preparing for mass deportations, former acting ICE Director Tom Homan, who has been named Trump's border czar, has ambitious plans.
So at the heels of the biggest illegal immigration crisis we've ever seen in this nation, there has to be a massive deportation operation, because 9 out of 10 of these people, based on 10 years of data, they'll lose their case, get order removal. If we don't remove them, what the hell are we doing? The whole world's going to know. Enter the country illegally, what's a crime, make a false claim to asylum, get order removed, but you still have to go home.
But removing millions of undocumented immigrants will not be easy, because roughly 1.4 million individuals in the United States have final orders of removal, yet many cannot be deported due to legal or diplomatic challenges.
I never thought I would leave my country. I never had the American dream, but I was forced by the situation at this moment with the government of Xiomara Castro and her family. They are a narco family that criticized Juan Orlando Hernandez, and they are 10 times worse. The basic basket is the most expensive in Central America. You can't survive anymore. I am an electrician. When Juan Orlando Hernandez was there, I lived peacefully with my family. I could go to dinner at a restaurant. Now I can't buy an egg or a pound of rice.
While critics argue Biden's rising deportation numbers are a band-aid for a deeper crisis, in the coming time it remains to be seen whether Trump will succeed in fulfilling his promise, because one thing is clear, that the incoming president will invest whatever it takes to make it happen.
And staying in the United States, a controversial post went viral on X Thursday, which many thought was an indirect threat to billionaire Elon Musk. The post came from a user named Bill Shea, who said, quote, "Folks, please do not forget Musk is a CEO of several companies. I say again, he's a CEO. Do with that information as you will," end quote. Shea's comments were in response to another post that compared Elon Musk to hedge fund tycoon George Soros. Ex-users quickly accused Shea of insinuating harm towards Musk, following which the profile was deactivated. The alleged threat comes amid heightened tensions over corporate leadership and accountability in the United States. Now, there's a greater sense of awareness in the wake of the chilling murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York earlier this month. Thompson's suspected killer, Luigi Mangione, who was arrested at a McDonald's outlet in Pennsylvania, now faces first-degree murder charges.
Our work will never be able to undo the fact that a life was lost. We are here to announce that Luigi Mangione, the defendant, is charged with 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism.
Now, the 26-year-old suspect has gained unexpected support on social media. Americans frustrated with the healthcare system have been flooding social media with messages in solidarity with Mangione. The suspected shooter has even garnered thousands of followers on his Instagram account, with many portraying him as an anti-establishment figure. Some supporters have also set up online fundraisers for Mangione's defense, with public donations surpassing $130,000. Notably, Americans spend far more on healthcare than anywhere else in the developing world. And over the past 5 years, spending on insurance premiums, pharmaceuticals, and hospital services have also increased significantly. And after years of frustration, insurers, big corporations, and their executives have become the latest targets. Now, amid the outpouring of this anger, healthcare companies say they are taking a step back to better understand the customer's needs.
First of all, I just think it's a very sad and heavy moment. It was a tragedy of epic proportions, and you think about the families affected, and I think we're just still reeling and trying to get a handle on actually what happened. In terms of the comments online, I will only say that I think all of us are taking a step back and trying to understand what's happening with patients and their experiences. We always do that at Pfizer. I know you do that at Amazon. But clearly, there's a larger dialogue that needs to happen. And we're going to be taking our time to try to understand exactly what happened and understand that feedback and see where we can play a positive role then.
Now, even Elon Musk in a social media post weighed in on the rising cost of healthcare in the U.S., saying patients should get their money's worth. However, it's unclear if the Tesla CEO, who has vowed to cut federal spending under the next Trump administration, is actually willing to help Americans struggling with rising healthcare costs. And moving to the Middle East, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei puts a series of posts on X outraging millions of netizens. Khamenei posted his views on women, their role in society, and how the Western world is taking away the freedoms of women wanting to become mothers. Describing them as flowers, Khamenei wrote that women were delicate and had to be nurtured rather than being treated like housemaids.
A woman is a delicate flower and not a housemaid. A woman should be treated like a flower in the home. A flower needs to be cared for. Its freshness and sweet scent should be benefited from and used to perfume the air.
The Iranian leader then elaborated on the role women play in society and how gender roles are the building blocks of civilizations.
Women and men have different roles in the family. For example, the man is responsible for the family's expenses, while the woman is responsible for childbearing. This doesn't imply superiority. They're different merits, and the rights of men and women aren't calculated based on these.
Khamenei's post soon turned into a meme fest, with users on X slamming the Iranian leader for the suppression of women by the Islamic regime. Israel's official handle responded by posting a picture of Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old who died under suspicious circumstances for not wearing the hijab, sparking nationwide unrest back in 2022. The comments come as Iran faces continued international backlash and criticism for its harsh crackdown against women and members of the LGBTQ+ community. Now, Iran had recently passed a harsh chastity and hijab law, which included flogging, hefty fines, and even the death penalty for Iranian women who broke the Islamic dress code. However, the law has now been placed on hold due to massive public outrage after an Iranian woman was arrested for not wearing the hijab during a musical performance on YouTube, which received over 1 million views. The law was backed by Khamenei, but was opposed by Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian, who is now considered a moderate and liberal.
We requested that this bill not be referred to the government for now and remain on hold until a decision is made in the future.
Someone like Masoud Pezeshkian, who is a non-cleric, who cannot be a supreme leader, his sudden emergence as president raises the question, why him, why now? And I frankly think it's too early to judge, but I think one thing we have to assume has happened, and that is the top echelons of power in the Islamic Republic, the office of the supreme leader, and the generals in the Revolutionary Guards, who really called the shots on some of the key issues in Iran. They had a good sense of Iranian society and decided that this is a very angry population. We need to do something. We need to create political space. Otherwise, we're going to end up with more street protests and so forth. Someone like Pezeshkian can play the role of maybe diffusing the situation.
The United States, the United Nations, and the European Union, as well as several other human rights organizations, have accused Khamenei for mercilessly cracking down against women and denying them basic rights. The country continues to suffer from internal unrest while igniting tensions in the region and beyond by continuously threatening Israel and the United States with destruction while suppressing any form of dissent within. And finally, from Europe, where butter is making headlines, in Poland, this kitchen essential has become a hot political topic ahead of May's presidential election. Meanwhile, butter prices in Slovakia, Germany, and the Czech Republic have risen by more than 40%, sending bakeries into a frenzy. With prices skyrocketing due to global milk shortages, European nations are tapping into their strategic butter reserves. Our final story has more.
Butter. Once a simple kitchen staple, now stirs political drama. In Poland, soaring butter prices have become a symbol of rising costs. With presidential elections around the corner, the government has turned to emergency reserves. The plan? Auction off 1,000 metric tons of frozen butter to stabilize prices. Poland's Strategic Reserves Agency announced the auction this week. The unsalted butter stored in 25 kilogram blocks will start at $7 per kilogram. This is significantly cheaper than supermarket prices, where butter sells between $9.84 and $12.32 per kilogram. And global milk shortages are behind this surge. Declining cattle numbers and disease outbreaks have squeezed supply.
The price of butter has been going up since September, at least 25% since September. Today the price for this is about 10 euros per kilo. We were paying somewhere around 8 euros in September.
The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization reported a 20% rise in its global dairy price index over the past year. Butter prices alone have jumped 44% across the European Union. The auction begins Thursday. Bidders must purchase at least 20 metric tons, and the final price could exceed the starting bid. Poland hopes this emergency measure will stabilize butter prices and ease public discontent ahead of May's elections. Inflation is a major concern for the European countries. Across the 26 member states, the price of butter rose 19% on average from October 2023 to October 2024. That included a rise of 49% in Slovakia and 40% in Germany and the Czech Republic.
At one point, manufacturers and maybe some bakers who were afraid their croissants would become too expensive started making croissants with margarine. They named it an ordinary croissant, but it's a distortion of what a croissant is. A croissant is made with butter. When the baker puts his prices up by 5 cents, people notice, and that's strange, they ask why. When you buy a new smartphone, you don't go up to the sales assistant and ask him why it's more expensive. You say, it's gone up, but you don't ask for reasons.
Now, Europe's butter crisis isn't unique. Governments worldwide often dip into reserves during shortages. China has released pork, and back in 2021, Canada opened its maple syrup reserve. As food prices globally remain volatile, vegetables, oils, and cocoa have reached near record highs. Butter, however, holds a special place in Polish hearts and their wallets. Poland's bold move shows butter is more than a commodity. It's a symbol of inflation's bite and political stakes. As auctions commence, all eyes are on Poland's butter shelves and next year on the ballot boxes.
That's our show for today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you right back here next week. Donald Trump's return to the Oval Office is imminent. He will soon take the oath of office and once again lead the nation.
God spared my life for a reason.
President-elect Donald Trump's first priority: tackling illegal immigration and securing the nation's borders.
We're going to fix our borders.
The incoming administration has prioritized the Russia-Ukraine war. Can they succeed in ending one of the world's most challenging conflicts?
I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled.
And as he returns to the White House, will Donald Trump resume a bruising trade war with the world's second largest economy, China?
If China or some other country is behaving badly, we have things called tariffs.
All of this and more right here on Firstpost America.